Thank you for watching our video. This show is sponsored by DreamStream. DreamStream is a unique platform where creators can monetize their video content. All creators rely on support from people like you. Join us on the DreamStream platform to support your favorite creator and view the episode without any adverts. Follow the link in the description for a how-to guide. DreamStream, a place where you can create yourself.
The Gala Queer Archive is a non-profit organization that operates as a catalyst for production, preservation, and dissemination of information about history, culture, as well as the contemporary experiences of the LGBTQI plus people in South Africa. And one cannot not appreciate the fact that they are closing the gap in terms of the limited literature that we have about issues of queer communities and queer, I think, people and persons as at large. So today I am going to want to welcome you specifically because for me it is one of the special episodes that we have in today, really to delve into the importance of having a lot of literature that is being documented, because this is very important in terms of the future, the younger generations that will be coming, for them to learn. But also we need to know who played what role in this space of making sure that queer issues are taken care of, that they're put forward, and that we get to educate the entire society of what queer people are about. And joining me today, it is, of course, on my right, it is Dr. Bev Ditsiye, and she is, in fact, a gender non-conforming lesbian activist, award-winning filmmaker, reality TV director and writer, and also a musician. Quite talented, I must put that out there, right? For decades has shifted many perspectives, but more importantly spoke about for Black African lesbians, and continues to do phenomenal work for the LGBTQI plus community as a whole. And on my right, it is David Mokoena, is acting section for internal communication at the South African Police Service headquarters. He has over 15 years of experience in the field of communication and journalism. He is currently reading for a PhD in journalism with a focus on the representation and portrayal of LGBTQI plus people in South African mainstream news and media. So his debut novel, Here Comes the Gay King, was published in August 2022. So you understand why we needed to have him on this show. My guest, welcome, and thank you for making time to join me.
Thank you so much.
So it's always important to talk about pronouns because it's one of those tricky issues when you have people around you to say, what is your pronoun?
He, she, they, I don't care.
It doesn't
I think,
matter.
no, because pronouns have been used to hurt, right?
Yeah.
And people think that when you walk in and they say he, they think that you're going to get hurt. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, you can't hurt me because I don't care. Like, I'm gender non-conforming. That's what that's what that means.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Lovely. It's that's so powerful though.
It can't hurt me.
Because then you have your power to yourself.
Exactly.
True. Yeah.
I think what she's saying, like what they're saying rather, is quite beautiful, because I think identity is about how you see yourself. And for me, I see myself as he, him, and his. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think, Doc, starting with you, you've done exceptional work from TV, film, and other spaces as well. And you could have decided to stay there and pursue your career there, but you also became an activist. Why is that? Because it requires so much. I mean, you have to be selfless to do everything that is done. You risk so much as well. Why did you decide to pursue that part?
I don't think I had much of a choice. I grew up in an activist home. And when I say activist home, you know, people want to like quantify struggle credentials. You know, my grandma stood up for the women in my neighborhood. I grew up in a very maternal home. And that alone shows you, you know, I would see how men treat my whole family because so now there's disrespect, and how they would just walk into the yard and like they can do whatever they want, you know. And of course, you know, suitors, boyfriends. You know, I would see how they would treat the women in my family. I had no choice. My mom was a musician. She traveled all over Southern Africa. She'd come back with stories of how, you know, people are treated in other places, and she'd say, you know, this apartheid thing, shh, we don't talk about it. And I started kind of understanding, oh, we don't talk about it. Why? You know, and I've always been a very curious child, but also I've always been very mask presenting for a girl. I was a boy. Like, as far as everybody was concerned, I was a boy. I was not a boy. I was not a girl. I was just Bev.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as a result, it was very difficult to navigate my life to a point where I was very blessed because I was accepted.
Yeah.
And that acceptance meant that I could be me. But when we had to go to church, when we had to go to family gatherings, they would force me into a dress. I had no choice. I
Yeah.
questioned too much. I needed to know. I needed to understand. And in my questioning, answers come. And when the answers come, you realize, oh, I'm on the margins. Why am I on the margins?
Yeah.
And what happens to people who are on the margins? So you start to fight,
Yeah.
you know?
Doc is talking about questioning,
Yeah.
right? And I think earlier on off camera, we were talking about how people will look at you and expect you to look in a certain way. In your journey in finding yourself, how was that like for you?
I think my journey was quite difficult, to be quite honest. From the very beginning, you know, I come from a rural village in Limpopo, and I grew up going to church. I still go to church even today. And I think growing up as a 5, 6, 7-year-old, I think even the pastors at church, you know, they could tell that this one is gay. and because they can see that, they start to preach a homophobic sermon and you start to hate yourself. And, you know, like you try to pray, say, God, why am I like this? Why did you make me different? And you try so hard to convince yourself that you are a heterosexual person. And I think it was only in my late 20s that I've just decided that, you know what, enough is enough. I'm going to embrace myself and live my truth. And in doing that, I saw certain people that I grew up with write themselves out of my life. And I think that was a blessing in disguise, because those were people that were comfortable with me trying to live a version of me that it wasn't true. And the people that stayed for me, then I understood that these are the people that are meant to be in my own life. Even some people in my own family, like some of my sisters, you know, like it was very difficult for them to understand that this is who I am now. I mean, one of my sisters tried to get me a wife, you know. And I had to tell her that, listen, actually your younger brother is gay, and it's actually your fault that after all these years you don't know that I am gay, because I grew up right in front of you. You're the firstborn. You should have seen this coming. But nonetheless, this is who I am. And I'm just going to give you time to adjust and to come to terms with my identity, because I'm not going to sacrifice myself for everybody. So it's been quite a journey. But I think for me, the most beautiful part was when I came out to my mom. I don't believe in the concept of coming out, by the way. But because of my mom's advanced age, you know, she's 77 years old now. So 3 or 4 years ago, you know, she kept on asking me that, yes, I know that you have a child and things didn't work out between the mother of your child and you, but just show me someone that we're living with, you know. And for a very long time, I said to her, please just leave me alone. Don't ask me that. And just one day, I decided to be brave and sit her down. And I just tried to take a few steps back and say, do you remember when I was growing up, these are the things that I did. I didn't like to do this. I like to do that. And she kind of like followed, you know, like the theme that I was trying to get to. And when I told her that I'm gay, she confessed her undying love for me. And I think for me, that was beautiful. I really appreciated that. And it was only some 2 years later when one of my sisters brainwashed my mom into believing that I've been bewitched. And my sister said to my mom that I need to be taken to a Sangoma. It was a war thing, so much so that I even tried to commit suicide, you know, because I just couldn't understand that how can my mom be brainwashed so easily.
Yeah.
And I think for her, because I think for a very long time, she was trying to understand that what does it mean to be gay, especially because I'm not feminine presenting, although I would like to believe that, although even when I was in the closet, my closet was quite transparent, So it's been quite a journey. And I said to my mom, like some of the people that I've introduced to you as my friends, those were my boyfriends, by the way.
They weren't really friends.
They were not friends, but like boyfriends,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you got to that space of accepting who you are, and you basically, I'd say, took your power in terms of living the truth that you are. Because for me, Doc, in 1997, I won Miss Global, and it's through that journey, because now I got exposed to different projects, that I got to really accept me for who I am and really embrace me for who I am, because you get bullied, and because you're more feminine, and now you don't even know where you belong. You're not girl enough, you're not boy enough.
Right.
You get confused. And I think I appreciated the organization so much. When you started it at the time, what was the thinking behind, and what is it that you were hoping to achieve with the gay and lesbian organization of Witwatersrand?
Oh.
So GLOW was formed 1989. In my mind, I have it as 1988.
Is it?
But like sometimes I don't know if it's an age thing. But
was the idea not conceived then?
No. I think Simon Nkodi had just come out of was acquitted of Delmas treason trial.
Okay.
And so he'd been starting all these organizations before. There was the Saturday Club in the mid-80s.
Oh, yeah.
Before he was imprisoned, go Delmas.
Yeah.
And even before then, he was kind of trying to get into the Gay Association of South Africa, which was very white male, and they would not kind of accept him. Barabamita terrorists didn't want
Sure.
him to, to be part of them. Obviously, I still believe white men were really there to try to belong to the status quo, not to change it. And so, and it was very evident there with Gasa, that's what they were doing by calling him a terrorist and saying they won't support him. So he started Saturday Club, and then he went to prison, and then when he came out, he started doing meetings. GLOW was formed out of those meetings. So now I was with my group of friends growing up, 14, 15, 16-year-old, with like 9 gay boys. In fact, Reverend Paul Mukherjee likes to say we were 9 gay boys and a lesbian. and we would walk up and down the strata, confusing the hell out of people, and we loved it. They were flamboyant. What's he do? Well, totally. I mean, we
get all the attention.
We loved Culture Club and Boy George. We would dress like Culture Club, and so we would walk around and nobody knew.
Sounds very fun.
Yeah.
No, it was. Also because we were a gang. We were solid, the 10 of us. It wasn't very easy to be picked. The violence did not happen for us in the group. It happened maybe outside Mauliwan, but generally we were cool. So it is this group that kind of found out, there's these meetings that are being held, and there's this guy called Simon, and that's how I ended up within GLOW. And high form we shall call it this. That's how I'm a founding member of GLOW. But my activism from way back when, all the questions belonging to the SRC, and then finding out that here's an organization that's also anti-apartheid, that is also non-sexist, but it's also a queer organization. At that time, I got like a gay organization. I was like, wow, this aligns with everything that I believe. From a maternal home fighting against the sexism, Kiamaburu fighting against them and fighting against the homophobia. It just made perfect sense. And it became a home for me. I found myself within GLOW. I found everything about what I needed. I found my purpose. I found my purpose within GLOW. And then finding myself speaking out more and more. And then being co-chair of GLOW with Simon, also, Carolina Kirki was my mentor. And him kind of taking me by the hand, like, there's this interview. Do you want to do it? I can't do it. You do it. And explaining to me about visibility. You know, I mean, I was 17 when Glow was formed. I was 18, Gaffers Pride March. I was a teenager. I was also still, you know, politically maturing. And finding out, or yeah, if we don't exist in the media space, we don't exist at all. And if we don't exist at all, it's easy to just continue to want to kill us, to kill us off, because you think that we don't exist and we should not exist. You know? So those are the lessons that were coming from Simon and the others within the organization, where we're constantly learning and fighting for visibility and fighting. At the time, it's very interesting. Now I don't care for acceptance. We were fighting for acceptance. You know. Now, like tolerance, we were fighting for things that, like now in retrospect, you're like, I wanted to be tolerated. Who wants to be tolerated?
Imagine.
Like chappies, you tolerate it until the next point when you can remove it. Do you know what I mean? Who wants to be tolerated?
But what do you think now makes the distinction between then and now?
I think now we are at a point where we've been there, we've done that. We've done so much education that it's up to, it's not just up to us anymore, you know, it's up to everybody else just to open their eyes and know and realize and understand. The world is not as it used to be, where oppression was accepted and acceptable. We're not there anymore. That for me is where the difference is. Then we were also educating people to see us as normal. I did a talk very recently where, again, coming back to, you know, we're normal. I have my wife, we fight, you know, we have a little dog. Like trying to say, you know, here we are, we fit, you know. And yet at the same time, we're actually not. And that should also be acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm on my feet, the underdog, and I won't be beat. Turn the lights up now, welcome to the show. I ain't never
Are you a musician?
all I know. My eyes on the prize until I die. I'm gonna rise like
The Dream Stream Music Studio is now available on Sundays for only 295 rands per hour.
we work for a fall in line. We gon' give it our all until the end of time.
It includes a 12-channel desk, a variety of mics and cables, electronic drum kit, and a laptop for recording. Terms and conditions apply and booking is essential. Contact studio at dreamstream.co.za for a site visit.
You know, I think it's Orahola, we grow and we mature, and politically we evolve as well to a point where there's an understanding that there's a big wide variety of us. We're not just gay and lesbian, and no, we don't just fit into heteronormativity and its normalcy. We don't. And that should not make us targets.
Too. You know, there's a question that always runs through my mind, particularly when I come across information about Simon Nkodi and yourself as well, that you were fighting two battles at the time. It was issues of race and you know, being excluded because you're black, but also because of sexuality. You know, that how were you able to psychologically make sure you keep going? You know, I mean, it's so much to deal with, especially like now you're taking us back that you were a teenager at the time. What kept you going?
I was fueled by anger. Like, Bona, now my self-righteousness has always been there since I was a child. It really has. I've always felt very, very like, how dare you question me? I've always felt very self-righteous in my gender identity and expression and my sexuality. I've always felt like, how can you?
Imagine.
I would go.
Can't you notice?
No, but do you understand? I'm like, Monna, go to the Aramis Kuntu. I smell like you.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Please
How
show some
good?
respect here.
Why would one share? You know, like I've always felt very self-righteous. Like my existence is valid. I have known this from like such a core place.
Yeah.
I've never really questioned that until, as you say, religion. I love
course.
God.
Yeah.
Yo, I love God. I'm a God child. Yo, Shem.
Yeah.
Yo, Jesu.
Yes.
That guy.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I really understand.
He's a liberal. Yeah.
Listen, if he had to walk in here, they would kill him because he's very much like us.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he's never said anything negative about me. He's never,
Yeah.
whether me as a woman, me as a black person, he's
Yeah.
never, you know?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you can't say that because they want you to believe otherwise.
Yeah.
You know. But anyway, even then, my crisis point was believing, oh, God hates me. That was my crisis point because how can you hate me? I love you so much and I know you love me.
Yeah.
What the hell is this? My self-righteousness would not allow me to just go on as, you know, hokatala, that never occurred to me to be tired. It never occurred to me. Because really, I was just angry. I was angry at society. Or how can you treat us like this?
Yeah.
How do you not see me as a human being? How?
Sure. That's so powerful. David, we in 2023,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, the battles are different now. What do you feel some of the major battles that we are fighting as a queer community versus them having to fight two systems at the same time?
I think, you know, since the first Pride March in October 1990, a lot has changed. You know, South Africa became a constitutional democracy. Is it December or November 2006? Queer people could marry, etc. But also quite a lot, you know, it has remained the same. Like for instance, still today, I think I read an article somewhere that in 2021 alone, a total of 21 queer people, they were killed just for being who they are, like just because of their sexual identity. And when we look at that, 21 is quite a huge number. And I think for me, that's a cause for concern. And I think with regards to the struggle that Dr. Befitting, Simon Nkodi, and them that they went through, when you look at those kind of challenges and you look at today, I think what we need to appreciate, at least from our side, as you know, the torch bearers now, you know, like Dr. Befitting said, you know, like we have to keep on fighting. We have to carry on the baton from, you know, like not that they left off somewhere because they're still continuing, you know. I just feel that we need to do justice to the work that they started. We can't fold our arms and just say we're not going to do anything. And I think some of the silent challenges for me that we're facing today is the fact that we are being killed for who we are, firstly. Secondly, you go to a public healthcare institution, just because you are a different person, you will be treated in a different way, no dignity, a whole lot of things. You know, like I think those benign, I don't think, you know, it's even benign because it is so glaring, you know. As a gay man, you can't go to a public healthcare facility and say, this is my issue, I need this, without being treated in some kind of way. I think that, so although now we've got the rights as LGBTQI plus people, we have now, you know, to go into various systems trying to enforce change, as it were. And also, you know, we occupy spaces in the workplace. We have to also still educate people about LGBTQI plus rights. And my thing is, but why don't you educate yourself? You know, you know that we're living in a diverse country. So why don't you, like, why is it my burden that I need to teach you? People, you know, like they often say, oh, well, I didn't know that such and such is homophobic. But why don't you try to empower yourself to say, how can I coexist in a peaceful and meaningful manner alongside my fellow human beings?
Yeah.
And I think, like, for me, that's one of the challenges that we are currently facing today. And we have to make sure that our voices are heard and that we are seen and we are being visible in all that we do and the spaces that we occupy.
Yeah. And you have been one of the people that have, I would say, actively been doing something, because you've authored a book.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And it's titled Here Comes the Gay King.
Yeah.
Which is, an amazing title, I must say, that
Yeah.
you've given it. Can you just give us an overview of what the book is about and what really
Okay.
inspired the title?
Okay, talking about Here Comes the Gay King, I've got gifts
Here
for you.
comes the gay king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes
This
from-
for
Here
you.
comes the
Yeah.
gay king.
Thank you.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, you're welcome. So, Here Comes the Gay King, right? Yeah.
That's the book.
Yeah, so Here Comes the Gay King. Yeah, on the surface, it looks like a love story, but in actual fact, when you start to read and like you go through the pages, you realize that it's actually a story of identity, a story of belonging, a story that says being gay is as African as being black, because in a lot of places, we've been told that being gay is an African, is unheard of, it's against the Bible. And
Yeah.
as much as I'm a Christian, like for me, the thing is that, but who brought the Bible to Africa? You understand? So for me, I ask myself those kind of questions, but in essence, the novel, it's about a gay man named Peace Mike who was destined to become the king of his village. And there was prophecy before he was born that he would actually grow up to become the king of the village. And he was chosen by his ancestors that he will become the king of his village. When time comes for him to ascend the throne, his family learns that he's gay. And for them, that's taboo. Like, oh, we can't have a gay king, And they try to find him a wife, And when that happens, he comes out to them as gay, and they seek, they sought to take him to a sangoma, saying, we will pray for you, like conversion therapy,
Don't give
as
it
it
away.
were.
I'm going to read. Please don't give it away. I want to read.
Yeah,
So that's
okay,
enough.
I'll
So
leave it
happy
at
to
that.
read.
Yeah.
Oh, please. Yeah, no, I mean, have all of us been taken to the psychiatrist, psychologist, sangoma?
Well,
No, I
I've been
refused.
taken to pastors to pray
You've
for
been
me.
taken.
I've been taken
I
to
have
church.
too.
Yeah.
Oh my
Why
God,
is
no.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
because
How's
because
that
the
like
believers,
though?
when you refused.
I refused. I said, no,
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to do it.
I was a child. I didn't have
Yeah.
a choice.
Yeah.
Like not by 12, 13 when I came out, because obviously not even in the coming out was excitement.
Yeah.
I was just so happy. Finding
Yeah,
the
yeah.
words meant there was a community.
Yeah.
That means I could find my tribe.
Yes, yes.
Without the words, I didn't know. So when I found my tribe, all of a sudden, family,
Yeah.
so I was taken to different people.
Sure. To heal you. Heal.
No, but also like just
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
what's going on the side,
Yeah.
my grand's best friend worked in a psychiatric office, millionaires.
Okay.
Like I was sat down, and of course that time literature and psychological books came from the US, and that's when the praying the gay away, and then treating
yeah.
the gay with
Yeah.
with medication, or it's a
Gosh.
psychological problem. That's
Yeah.
that's what the books were saying. So it was seen. I was seen as somebody with a psychological problem. As a woman, I have choice.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
will marry a man. You will have children. You will grow up like this. So
Lo and behold.
Yeah.
no, but I mean, you understand. That's why you
Yeah.
fight. They also, my mom would set me up with these boys. it was like, and they would like come. Gunjani. And then I'd sit like this. So,
Yeah.
ufunani.
And it's just
Ubavajisa.
awkward.
Ufunani. And then it's
Yeah.
like, yabo, bengithi mhlambe singazikhipha. Yeah, and I mean, eventually, I started getting very violent in my language.
Yeah, yeah.
Pull my lap.
Yeah.
Was it
I
a way?
get so angry.
Was it a way of creating boundaries as well?
That too, but I just get so angry,
Yeah.
when they were trying to set me up.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
I needed, can I please, like, just, I needed to just kind of interject this. I worry a lot about.
Need a photo studio? The Dreamstream Photo Studio includes a 2.7-meter PVC backdrop in black and white and is available for only 115 rands per hour. You can also rent a Canon R6 and lights. All rentals are for studio use only. Terms and conditions apply. Contact studio at dreamstream.co.za.
Thank you, Ben, for coming out tonight. My name is Son of Augustine. Let's go.
asking people who don't care about us to educate themselves about us.
Oh yeah.
When they educate themselves about us, what ends up happening is Uganda.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It's quite sad.
You see what I mean? Because then we've left a gap
Yeah.
for them to enter here and for somebody else to fill the space. And when they fill the space, hey, they fill it, eh?
Sure.
Right now, if you had to ask any ordinary Ugandan who is very for this law, what is your problem? In fact, I saw an entire post where this guy adds 15 points. I will give you 15 reasons why these people ... right?
Yeah.
And none of them make sense. From the world will end if we don't, and like we procreate.
We do.
We have
Really?
children.
We do.
What the
Hey.
hell? You know, I mean, I went any bullet point, none of which were true, none of which make sense.
Assumptions.
We are
assumptions,
recruited,
assumptions.
we get paid to come and change Africa. We are, the Western concept is to end Christianity. We are like, literally, that somebody told him this. And somebody told him this because we said, educate yourself.
True.
Yeah.
So now we are at a point where we are back. It's harder to force or push people to unlearn than if we were educating for them to know before they got the negative information. So that's my only concern. And Lena, I am there where I'm like, yo, ke kgathetse ku educate.
Yo, like so tiring.
Ke kgathetse. But if we don't fill the gaps, David, we are in
Yes.
trouble because somebody else will fill them.
I think I agree with you on that one, because that's why we have a platform like this one, where,
Oh,
where
yes,
we need
true,
to have
true.
discussions with people that are in the community to actually share their stories that then the society can be able to learn. But also, even within the community, that we get to learn about each
About
other.
each other.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
there's a
true.
lot of confusion and misinformation that goes around, that we need to have spaces like this where we have discussions and we truly get to delve into issues that matter the most, that we then get to share about them. You know, the books that you're
Yes.
writing, people
Yeah.
need to read to be able to learn and get information out of it.
Yeah.
You know, because otherwise, yes, we stand that risk of people assuming and
things.
taking.
Exactly.
And they can easily create a certain narrative that suits them.
Yeah, true.
Right?
And they do.
They always do.
They do.
They always do.
I just wanted to add there that also people actually, if you know they were to read up on African history, they will realize that homosexuality on the continent predates colonialism.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's reality that people don't want to accept. And I think if we can just understand that you know back in the day, before the so-called quote unquote civilization, queens, they had wives, you know. So what did that mean? And when soldiers, they went into army training and all of that, you know, like they had sexual relations with other men. So this thing, the issue of homosexuality, it doesn't start now. It's been there for centuries and centuries. But that's just something that people are sweeping under the carpet, say, hey, we're not going to talk about this,
Yeah.
which is quite sad.
You know, when you say that, you remind me, I had a conversation with my grandmother. She was born 1905, right? And you know, you get to that point when you just want to test if they really understand who you are and what you're about. And I start having a conversation. And she says to me, Tolo, this is not new to me. I grew up seeing people like you in my
Yeah,
community.
exactly.
Others will
Villages,
end up not getting married because you can see it won't work.
Yeah. But then also Peppos. Now, my great granny Lene, she was born in 1899. Who she would say to me, okay, okay, you would probably have been recruited to be one of the healers. The women like you are healers or diviners, and they send messages because Akriano, you know,
Yeah.
so you don't have that responsibility.
So
And
it's
then,
more of you're pure.
But then somebody else would then say, but also storytellers were queer, because then they would go from village to village to village,
yeah.
telling the stories and carrying the stories of what's going on. And like, there's all these different roles that we've always played in society that was pretty normal
Yeah.
to use quote unquote words that are used against us. It was
Yeah.
normal,
Yeah.
you know, to have people like us within communities and within society. And then colonization happened. The ship
Yeah.
came, and the ship said, also, how about a family? Because you know, these religious right-wing evil
Yeah.
Thanks.
they arrive and they literally are trying to tell us in Africa what a family makes up only mom, dad, and
Yeah.
two and a half kids and a dog. Meanwhile, all of us know our families have always been very different.
Yeah.
We've had moms and aunts and grandmas bringing up children. We've had
And
villages
uncles.
of uncles,
Villages, yeah.
uncles upon uncles bringing up children. We've had villages of different types of families. We've had matriarchal families. We've had
Yes.
mixed families. We've had polygamous, polyamorous.
Yes.
We've had all kinds what we've called family. You know, Bo Konumanzopa were family. Bo, as you were saying, Bo Queen Mujaji. What do you
Yes.
call that? That's a family.
Yes.
You know, and so it's very interesting how it's so easy to want to punch down.
Yeah.
That when there's no one to punch down, you will find lies to create in order to be justify punching down on another person.
Yeah.
That's for me. That's crazy.
Couldn't then be that the lack of documenting stories opened the room for that?
Yes.
That people would want to bring
Yes.
forth what makes sense to them,
Yes.
and then want other people to buy into
Yeah.
them,
Into that.
to then take it forward.
I mean, that's what colonization did.
Yeah.
It comes in, it takes away our story, it replaces
And,
our story
yeah.
with their story, and now their story becomes our story. Meanwhile, where's our story?
Yeah.
I think that's like why I make documentaries.
Exactly.
Is exactly that, is to say what's their story, what's her story.
Yeah.
Because right now we only know his story.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And-
who is he?
Yeah.
True.
I think also just add on to that, just to go back moments in time, you know, to reclaim our stories and tell them now. So I think, you know, it's quite important that although that is the case, you know, we go back moments in time, we research what our stories are, even though they were not documented. Like you said, your grandmom, she was born 1905, your
1899.
1899, you know, like they tell us these stories, we document them.
Yes.
We are a filmmaker, I'm a novelist.
Yes.
We need to tell these stories to
Yes.
say,
Yeah.
back in the day, this is how life on the African continent was like. And for me, that's very important because I think we cannot leave a gap, you know, like to be a gap that would result in people pushing their own agenda. We need to tell our own stories from our own perspective as
Yep.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also what I've loved, Doctor, is that among the great work that you have done, you've put together a 55-minute documentary on lesbian free everyone, the Beijing perspective. And this is, I mean, the 25th anniversary of the address that you actually, you know, given. Why did you feel that it was important that you actually, you know, documented?
There's a story. Tolu, there's always story. There's a story. I went to a LBQ conference in Cape Town. It was a global conference. It was the first time it was like a global LBQ conference, right? And I was invited with my friend and colleague who is in the States, who was one of the organizers of the Lesbian Visibility Campaign at the Beijing conference in 1995. And so we were just going to kind of show some slides, some pictures of the Beijing conference, because, hey, no, really hectic for Beijing, you know?
Yeah.
And so at that conference, next door was another session on kink. And, you know, we like kink.
Yeah.
So I thought, hey, nobody's going to come to our session because everybody's going to fill up that space. Everybody's been talking about the kink party and the kink workshop.
Yeah.
I shame. All of a sudden, our session yatlala. People are coming in. People are streaming in. As we're talking, people are streaming in. And we've just had a few slides, few pictures. And more people came in. And the more they came in with their cameras. And then now they're taking video, they're taking pictures, because now they're interested in the story.
Yeah.
And we eventually looked at each other and said, this is a story that is not necessarily known. Within the lesbian community, within the queer community, within the feminist community, people don't know that we had a major visibility campaign in Beijing, and that it ultimately influenced how the United Nations proceeded with LGBTI, you know, questions and the agenda, where all of a sudden we have a seat at the table as queer folks inside the United Nations. How did that happen? Those are some of the reasons. Yo, somebody's dying. Please cough. I know we are editing. You will edit. Oh, please cough. How long have you held it? Listen, I hold, and then eventually you can't hold it anymore.
Yeah, you can't hold it no more.
Askihisi.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oops.
Ask you.
Yeah.
Don't die on us.
Yeah.
Shame, man. Like, you know, by the time it comes out.
Yeah.
So that's the story behind realizing that there was a whole group of young people at this conference that filled up and they filled up and they filled up, and all of a sudden there was no sitting room
Wow.
in our session,
Sure.
because they were just and the questions that came after that. So I looked at Julie Dorff, who was founder of the International Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission. It's called Outright Action International now. And Julie said, "We got to do something." I said, "I think so." So we were supposed to get together at 2020 for the 25th year anniversary. And we were all going to get together in New York with some of the same faces and some of the same activists we were with in 1995. And then COVID happened. And within that very week, you know, we were talking with Julie and a few others, and we were like, okay, so what do we do? Because we've got the funding and now we're canceling flights. I was like, let's tell the story.
Yeah.
How are we going to do that? There was like 25 people from around the world that I wanted to interview, and now we are under lockdown. So I said, that's where art comes in,
Yeah.
using the digital space. So we called up people and we said, would you do an interview on Zoom?
Oh,
We,
cool.
you know, called my editors, I called my DOPs, I called my people, and I said, what's the sound going to be like?
Yeah.
What's the quality of the camera is going to be like? Because obviously it's on Zoom. And then we tried to bump up the quality to make sure that it's something that can be blown up on a screen. And we filmed.
Beautiful.
Like right throughout, from day one year lockdown. Now I was sitting down doing those interviews. So I didn't even feel the lockdown, because all I did was work right through it. So we started filming in March. In fact, the 1st of April is when we started. We were screening in October of 2020.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. Work well done.
So
Yeah.
so it's a pretty cool film. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite films.
Yeah.
Now I can tell every new work becomes
becomes
your
Yeah,
favorite
yeah.
sometimes, you know. So
Yeah.
it's my favorite new one. We are screening in Sweden in October.
Okay.
And they are kind of doing a little focus on South Africa using the film. That's going to be
Nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So, David, for you, I mean, writing a book signifies the need for literature
It does,
that is
yeah.
around.
Yeah.
You know, why do you think it's important? If you think, if you do think so.
I think it's important, you know, especially, I think for me, you know, growing up, I didn't find any book that told my story. And I just became increasingly frustrated that, you know, I love reading the books that I'm reading. I don't find myself represented. And I just felt that I needed to do something about it. I just started lamenting the fact that there were not enough gay stories in literature. I told my friends who cared to listen, you know, they said, but since you're a writer, why don't you do something about it? And for the longest time, I didn't know what that meant, as much as that is so clear. I thought maybe they wanted me to write a story about my own life. I was like, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that kind of honesty, you know? Because if you're telling your own life story, you have to be very honest. And then just one day during the lockdown, then this idea just came. I was like, that's it. I have to start telling this story, you know? And I sat down, I just wrote one sentence, and I was like, because I started to write in 2020, and the story is set in the second half of 2020. I said, how does it look like to be a gay man in South Africa in 2020? And I brought into the story contemporary socio-political issues. And I said that, you know, I needed to tell a story that any gay man in South Africa, after they read the story, they can say, I find myself reflected in the story and affirmed in the story as well.
Yeah.
And I went further and I incorporated a bisexual woman in the story. And I did that on purpose, you know, because I felt that as a community, you know, like the issue of visibility is quite important. So I think it is important that we tell this story so that people who are not part of the so-called normal, as it were, they can see that actually I'm not the only one. How I feel, it's valid. I'm reading about this in the story. It's as if this author just saw exactly how I felt. I can't begin to tell you now the feedback that I've received. I mean, I've received feedback from the US, from Japan, from France, people across the country, saying that it's like you just looked into my life and said, I'm going to tell your life story.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to write a story that would tell someone else's story, even if I've not met the person. And in telling this story, I realized that my whole life actually has been researched for this novel.
Yeah.
I realized that the discussions that I've had with people over the years, some of my own personal experiences, they made it into the story. I embellished them, of course. And some of the things that my friends told me, I remember sometime back in 2010, I met up with a friend of mine, a friend of his came over, then we're just talking about being gay in South Africa in 2010. And he told me that his mom took him to a Sangoma to heal him. And he said, you know what, I'm not gonna fight this woman, she's an old woman, let me just do what she's asking me to do. But as soon as he left home in Guyana, he said he went back straight to his man, you know? So, and I was like, that's actually beautiful, you know? And I needed to show that in the story. So, I think I felt the need to tell a story that will do justice to not only the triumphs that we have had as gay people, but also the challenges that we face and how we overcome those challenges and the need for resilience. Because for me, as a storyteller, I feel that resilience is quite important, you know. I felt that I needed to also reflect the gay community back to itself to say, this is how as a community you look like.
Yeah.
Do you like how you look like? If not, let's have a conversation. If you do, let's have a conversation. I mean, the book also has got heterosexual people, progressive people. Like there's a pastor that understands what being gay is all about. This old gogo who, she says, like, this my gay nephew, please just let him be. And then you've got now this Sangoma also that says, why are you wanting to change this man? You know? And then also I think you've got a queen that understands what it means to be gay. And then at the same time, you've got this woman in the family and the uncle who say over our dead bodies, and they will stop at nothing to make sure that their son turns straight through using all the unconventional means that we've spoken about.
Wow, sounds very holistic in terms of addressing issues.
Everybody, everything.
Everything,
Yeah.
particularly in society.
That's amazing. I love literature. I love to read, and so I consume.
Yeah.
And just the more I see of us, the more affirmed. You know, I mean, Baring, they're trying to protect the children. We were children too.
Gosh,
And
like
we were
really,
lost as children.
no one protected us.
Because there was no reflection of us anywhere. True. You know?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about Sangoma, I was just thinking about another friend who's trans, who was called, and Gobela kept saying things like, they don't understand this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was like, no, sweet.
Yeah.
Any Gobela that tells you that your ancestors don't understand
That's
you
not true.
is not,
Yeah.
they are using their own prejudice.
Exactly.
Because as we understand, Hore spirit is not gendered. And therefore, if you're being called, you could be any gender. You would be called Gogo, you'd be called Mkulu. Like, we understand these things. Who is this telling you, or your own people don't understand you? You know, that doesn't make any sense. So I was happy when you said that.
Yeah.
You know, the Sangoma was like, why do you want to change this person?
And that brings me to the question that concludes our discussions, that, you know, in South Africa has become tolerable, and I'm using the word tolerable, to us as a queer community, right?
To a degree.
To
right?
a degree. And I'm saying this because, as you mentioned earlier, we've got policies, we've got, all official documents that are there, but in terms of practice, it's a different story. You go to home affairs, you're getting married, there's still prejudice to that. There's still a lot of inequality, particularly for us. There are spaces where you'd not be recognized for your performance as an individual, but you'd be looked at because you are, right? And that also puts us outside. So in terms of ensuring that we document these stories? Why would you feel strongly that it's important that we do that?
On my feet, the underdog, and I won't be beat. Turn the lights up now, welcome to the show. I ain't never
Are
gonna
you a
stop,
musician?
this is all I know. My eyes on the prize, until I die, I'm gonna rise like
The Dreamstream Music Studio is now available on Sundays for only 295 rands per hour.
we work for a fall in line. We gon' give it our all until the end of time.
It includes a 12-channel desk, a variety of mics and cables, electronic drum kit, and a laptop for recording. Terms and conditions apply and booking is essential. Contact studio at dreamstream.co.za for a site visit.
So stories of us, stories of other people, our experiences, you know, for the next generations, for people in the US to know about us as Africans, what we go through.
I did an interview, I was young, with Dali Tambo, and even now I look back at it and I go, wow, you are quite clever. I said, I mean, I did a lot of dumb things too, but that moment,
Yeah.
I said, you know, if we don't speak now, if we're not visible 20, 30, 50 years from now, they're going to keep saying that we've never existed. Right now, the reason why we are fighting for our existence is because 20, 30, 50 years ago, our ancestors were not documented. And so we continue to be on the margins because we continue to not be visible, to not be documented. That's, for me, it's about our survival. Documentation of ours is, we're surviving.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's much of a choice. We want to make sure that, I personally want to make sure that there's nobody 50 years from now who will say they never existed. That's really why I do what I do as a documentary filmmaker.
Yeah. Yeah. For you, David?
I think you took the words right out of my mouth. But just to add on to that, I just want to say that, you know, it is important that we tell these stories because, as already said, you know, like our existence must be acknowledged. And I feel that over and above that, you know, we cannot 50, 70 years down the line, the generation of that time then says, but why is it that nothing has been done all this time?
Yeah.
Why must it be us? So we need to play our part in all the small spaces that we are in. If I can put pen to paper, because that's what I do best, so be it. If you are in a community, you're raising young children at a creche, at a school, affirm those children. So you don't necessarily need the spotlight to be able to be able to do impactful work in your small corner, in your community, wherever you are. Use whatever it is that you have to make sure that you treat everybody equally, to ensure that no person feels undermined for being who they are. We all are worthy of being here, and we should tell stories that affirm all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And Doc, you were celebrated abroad, right?
Yeah.
And conferred with a doctorate, and this is one of the things that makes us even more proud about you. But for you, what did it mean? You've shared with us why you went into the space of being an activist, and throughout the time you've been selfless, and you've done it not necessarily want to be, you know, get to this point, but you had the intention of, for me to be able to sit here today and have this kind of a conversation with you. What did it mean to you?
To be seen. There's nothing as amazing as being seen.
Yeah.
I think there came a point in my activist life where I started to shrink back. I was, I just thought, I'm being loud. I felt very alone in my loudness as well for a while, in the 90s. And then, you know, our community can sometimes be not very kind. And so I really wanted to just focus on my own career as a filmmaker and as a director. So I kind of stepped back from the activism, rather from in front, and started kind of working behind the scenes to try and see if I can like make an impact behind the scenes as a director. And so it came as such a beautiful affirmation of who my work and what I stood for and what I did, because really for the longest time, Lina, you grow and you move forward, and it just becomes one of the things that happened. You know, okay, you did some work, you were very selfless, as you put it. I put my family in a lot of danger because they had to stand up for me. They were constantly fighting family members, they were constantly fighting community, they were fighting, you know. So that's the things that were happening, like when I got that invitation and when that robe came on my shoulders. Those are the things I think, you know, I've left that on my social media status.
You've actually said
for that reason, that moment
a
is
lot was happening, and I think one could even see on your face.
I was thinking of my grandma.
Oh.
I mean, I don't say it there, but
Yeah.
my grandmother, who was my rock, who fought, who, when people were coming to my home to try and grab me, to come and show me, to come and teach me lessons, she stood in front of them and said, yeah, you might have to kill me first, eh?
Yeah.
Because you're not getting her, you know? Those are the things that were happening in my head, or, you know, I'm being seen and acknowledged in a way that I haven't been, and I'd even forgotten. I'd even forgotten Lynn Nauri, guy, you know? It was a powerful moment. It was amazing to just be acknowledged in that way. And I was like, yeah, it had to be outside. It had to happen.
I
from
actually
the
wanted to
outside.
say something about that, you know, that for me, it's quite sad, Doc, that we are acknowledged outside of our country, South Africa. Yet we've got so many institutions of higher learning. And I'm a student of your work, by the way, so I really do love your work. And I think for me, on a personal note, you know, I just feel that I wouldn't even call it any injustice. I don't know what to call it, you know, because after all the work that we have done, right, we've seen people being acknowledged and valued and rewarded for the activism work that they've done, others in the field of music, others in the field of whatever art form, right? And but that you are only recognized outside of your own country, I think for me that's painful. And as a token of my appreciation, on page 106 of my novel, I write about you and Simon Nkodi.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Go to 106.
And check it now.
Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
That made me emotional. Thank you, David.
Yeah, you're
It's
welcome.
special.
That's appreciated.
It's special.
And I mean, I'm not the only one who's not recognized. I think you asked me also off camera, why is it that we're just not seen? Why is there only one gay man on our TV screens? You know, it's because if we were to be seen in all our different colors, I mean, the entire spectrum. I'm talking the entire alphabet of us. If we were to be seen, then they would have to acknowledge our humanity. And I think that's really it. They don't want to acknowledge our humanity because then they can justify brutalizing us.
Wow. Doc, thank you so much for joining us and really sharing so much wisdom with us. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you. And there's still more that we want to learn from you. And that's why we follow you on social media. That's why we follow your work as well. We appreciate you so much. Okay, and thank you
for the invitation.
Thank you to the wifey also for taking care of you because she's doing tremendous work.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Her name is Nicole.
I thought she's going to be so happy. Nicole, thank you so much. We appreciate your work. It shows.
Beautiful.
David, thank you as well for making time to come and really sharing the knowledge that you have. But also, I think in terms of where we are now as a community, how we need to think also and to look at things. And for anyone that hasn't bought the book, where do they get it?
The book is available directly from me for signed copies. It's also on Take a Lot and Amazon.
Yeah.
It's available all over the world.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you have it. That was Dr. Bev Ditsiye and David Mokoena. So we've had so much. Unfortunately, time is always jealous. There's so much that was coming out of these discussions. I'm hoping that someday we'll have an opportunity to really expand more on these important issues that we need to talk about. So do stay tuned for another episode that is coming, because there's more that we're going to be sharing with you. But before I go, the myth and the fact. So the myth that is out there, another myth, is that people often believe that being LGBTQI is a choice and they can choose to be heterosexual or cisgender, and that is not the truth, because research has actually proven that being LGBTQI is not a choice. And I always say that the choice that we make is accepting who we are.